saying that it is ready to freeze out Arizona. The head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement saying his office could refuse to process illegals caught by Arizona police. My next guest is very furious about that. Her son, Mark Allen Lee, was a Navy SEAL, gave his life defending this country, and Debbie Lee doesn't like what's happening to this country, an Arizona resident besides. So Debbie Lee, what do you make of this?
You know, I was livid today when I heard that ICE was considering not taking the illegals that we arrest down here. This battle's been going on for several weeks here in Arizona, and as I've watched it go by, I'm so irritated with people who haven't read the bill, who are speaking out on it. I've got a copy of the bill right here. I have read it in its entirety, and it isn't anything that has to do with profiling. It has so many protections for the illegals in there. They have to commit additional crime besides just being here illegally to even get the attention of the police officers to be arrested. My son willingly gave up his life for this country, stood out in the direct line of fire 3 times that day on purpose to save his buddies, but not just for them, defending our freedoms, fighting for national security. And this is a national security issue, and we're going to hear ICE just say, well, go ahead and arrest them, we'll just release them back. What do we need ICE for? Well, that'll save our budget by not having them around. Well, maybe we don't need law enforcement either if Obama's going to decide just to throw everything out.
So, Debbie, when you heard yesterday when Mexican President Calderon was in town, and he was getting a standing ovation when he was in the Congress, chastising your state and this crackdown on illegals, what did you think of that?
It was disgusting to me to see him come into our country, to go into our government, our house, and slap us in the face. How insulting. And then for certain members of Congress to stand up and applaud that man. This is America. We need to be standing for Americans. Our troops over there fighting for our freedoms. My son gave up his life for Americans, for our rights. They're more concerned about others than they are our own. We see our president who continually is apologizing. He's bowing to others. And we are Americans. We need to stand strong for America, for who we are, for our rights, for our flag, for our language. And it's disgusting to me to see that. I feel like my son's sacrifice, the president doesn't deserve the sacrifice that my son made and so many others because of how he is defaming our country. And, you know, it's disgusting. It's appalling. How can he do that?
Debbie Lee, do you think that, if your son were alive today, there's incredible sacrifice, and we obviously thank him and you as a mom and what you dealt with. But to see his state, maybe indirectly his mom, characterized as racist for a crackdown that was prompted by a federal government screwing up.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he would be appalled. I know he would be disgusted. And I am not a racist by any means. I'm probably one of the most tolerant people that there is. My children are half Spanish. And to see this go on in our country, they've entered illegally. We're not saying don't come in as immigrants. We're saying do it the right way. I have a daughter-in-law. My oldest son was in the Marines. He served in Okinawa and met his wife over there. She went through the proper channels. She did things legally. They had to wait a little bit longer in Okinawa before she could come over here to get the papers processed. So we're not saying don't come in. We're saying do it the right way. We want to be a compassionate nation who reaches out to others. But when they're coming across the borders illegally like they are now, when they're bringing the drugs across the border, when people are being murdered and killed here in our state, when we have the highest kidnapping rate outside of Bogota, Colombia, something's not right. And then for our federal government to stand there and say they're not going to help us, they're not going to enforce the laws that they've put on the books. I mean, if people read this law, it's just what's already there in the federal laws.
Well put, Debbie Lee. Again, my condolences and my thanks to you and your son for very, very incredible examples. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Amazing, amazing young man.
I'm sure. That's an amazing mom. All right, meanwhile,